What's going on, guys? So if you're a chiropractor who runs ads, this one is going to be directly for you. Now, we talk a lot about marketing and advertising on the show. Now, what I wanted to do was consolidate a lot of my thoughts in terms of the conversations I've had with different clients over the years and different prospects. And I really wanted to look at is why do some people make the leap to really scale their practice with advertising, and then other people get moderate to little results their whole career? Like, what is it that separates them, especially in this digital era? Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the 5 mistakes that I see chiropractors make when marketing and running paid ads. Okay. Now, before we get into it, as always, there is a fee for the show. If you guys get value, please hit that share button. We do grow organically by word of mouth around here, which means that we don't spend money on sponsorships and paid ads to get our name out there, especially for this kind of content here. So if you get value, share the show, send it to somebody who get value from it. And if you don't, don't come back and don't share the show. I mean, it works on value exchange. It works both ways. Okay. So let's talk about it. 5 mistakes chiropractors are making when it comes to advertising. Now, this could be for you if you're a chiropractor, if you're doing neuropathy, if you're doing decompression, shockwave, laser, those all are in the same bucket. Okay. Because those are all different services that we can market. And so what I want to look at as a holistic approach here is that what are the main things that are keeping us stuck? All right. So this isn't particularly for an industry. This is the things that I see that are just common for all businesses and then twisted back for chiropractors. Okay. So the first is we don't set targets. Okay. It means we don't set our lifetime value. We don't even maybe know what our lifetime value is. We don't set our target cost of acquisition. We don't reverse engineer to our target cost per lead, cost per call, cost per show, whatever you're looking at. Okay. We just don't set the numbers because we don't know. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to first reverse engineer from our lifetime value. What is our patient lifetime value, first and foremost? And we talked about that on the last couple shows. So if you want to get deeper into lifetime value, pop back a few episodes. But the lifetime value is, what does the average patient pay the business for the average duration of time that they're with us? So how long do they stick in terms of months? What do they pay on average per month? And there we go. We've got our lifetime value. And then when we know our lifetime value, then we can reverse engineer our cost of acquisition, otherwise known as CAC, customer acquisition cost. So the thing is, though, we don't even know the targets. So if we don't know our lifetime value, we certainly can't know expected CAC. And if we don't know expected CAC, we can't reverse engineer down to cost per lead, cost per booking, and that kind of stuff. So the first thing on why people make mistakes when they're advertising is they just don't set targets. All right. So make sure you set targets before you get going. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of shooting in the dark. You know what I mean? We're not going to know if we hit something or not because there was never a target set in the first place. All right. The second mistake I see chiropractors make when they're advertising is that the owner is not involved, which means that they have their CA maintain the relationship with the agency, and they rely on just that kind of pipeline communication from the agency to the CA, then back to the doctor to understand what's going on in their own practice, right? And I'm saying that some CAs are insanely capable and they send the data and you guys have it systematically done to where the owner is still filled in without being on the call. Okay, that can happen. I get that. The problem is in most practices, it doesn't happen. So the owner is left in the dark. And then after maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days, when things aren't working, then it's just a big blow up and everybody gets pissed and the owner's pissed and the CA's pissed and everyone's blaming each other just because the owner didn't have transparency the whole way. They weren't kept in the loop and they did not take the time to jump on the calls with the agency. So here's what we have to consider is that we need to have a weekly review with our agency to review data. And if you have a long-standing relationship with the agency, then maybe you go every other week. But things change. And a marketing agency is typically a pretty big arm in terms of responsibility for your practice. They're sending all the patients who are then feeding the beast. So the owner needs to be involved. I recommend doing a weekly review to start with an agency. And then you want to review the data on all those calls, starting with the acceptable data in terms of their CAC and lifetime value, and as well as the middle data, such as, lead cost, booking cost, cost per show, that kind of stuff. So the owner has to be involved in at least at the beginning because it's their business. They took the responsibility to take ownership. And if they are not going to take ownership for that call, then that's fine, but they have to be filled in very, very meticulously by the person who's meeting with the marketing agency. And it's ideal to have like an Excel sheet that everybody sees so that the CA can go and send the Excel sheet to the owner and then they can all review the data. But then at least there's nothing skewed. We're all looking at the same data. There's not emotion involved. Okay. So the owner needs to be involved, at least from a data-driven standpoint, to understand, is this working? Am I getting my ideal cost of acquisition? And then if not, what am I seeing that I can then relay back to the agency that may help make the relationship more fruitful? Okay. The third is we don't have proper tracking. So this relates a little bit to the targets, but rather the tracking is how are we looking at like where all of our leads are coming from and to who's actually converting. And so a lot of times I see people that are running Facebook ads and running Google ads and running SEO, and they don't actually they have no systematic way to discern what patients are coming from each source. So they might say, oh, well, I think we get 80% from Google and maybe 20% from Facebook. Or, hey, yeah, this month our Google didn't perform, but maybe our Facebook did. But like what they may realize is that they're only looking at leads. They're not actually looking at who's coming in and buying. And so we have to be able to see the whole system from lead to sale to know what our cost per lead is on every channel, but then what is our cost per acquisition on all of our channels? So again, we have to know these metrics, but then we also have to have the proper tracking to be able to see these patients all the way through. So we don't want to just know where they found us as a lead. We want to look to see who are all the patients that signed up for care last month and what was their source, because then we can reverse engineer by cheapest customer acquisition cost for sources. And so a lot of times what happens is we don't have that proper sales cycle and it's not being monitored. We're only monitoring the leads and we're only monitoring the sales. We're not monitoring who's in the middle at the call stages. We're not monitoring who's getting reached out to on a daily basis or who's getting reached out to on a monthly basis. We just don't have that middle data, right? So we have to know data for the whole sales cycle, okay? The fourth is people are underspending. Okay, that is an epidemic in chiropractic. In fact, Stephen Franson on one of our latest episodes, he talked about that on the show. Is that the epidemic of chiropractic is underspending, underinvesting into the business to help more people get under care. Okay, so if the main purpose of the business is to get more people under care, then we certainly don't want to underspend because then we undermatch our potential. Okay. And so what we want to do is we typically want to spend 8 to 12% of our goal revenue. So if our goal is to make 100 grand a month, we're spending between $8,000 and $12,000 a month comfortably to earn that goal. Okay. Now there's different nuanced situations. I get that, but we want to build up. And so sometimes I talk to people and they're like, yeah, man, I tried Facebook. It didn't work. Okay. How long did you do it? Well, I did it for 2 weeks. And how much did you spend? Oh, I spent like $700. Well, yeah, dude, like I'm not going to test anything for any market, any business on probably less than 5 grand and spend, there's just not enough data. And so if we can't spend that much, then we need to wait to get into paid traffic. But if we are using paid traffic, we have to make sure we're dedicating a proper amount of budget on a weekly and monthly basis. Okay. Otherwise we're going to be kind of left with like in that, like, I didn't really know phase. And it's not like we didn't know, we just didn't spend. We didn't spend enough to get the data. All right. Number 5, and the last one is mistakes people make on the selfish messaging. Okay. So in addition to underspending, we also have selfish messaging. And so I see a lot of people that are like, this is how I want to run the ad and this is what I'm going to produce. And what they end up with is a message that's all about them. And so the clinician wants to market a certain way and the messaging comes out all selfishly about the clinic. Like, we're doing a special. We're having new patients. We're open. I see these posts on Instagram that just says we're open. Dude, that's not marketing. Every business is open 9 to 5. That's the assumption, right? That's not marketing. We have to look outside of that and say, how is our messaging? Are we using boring stock content? Is our content boring? Is our content too similar of others in our market? How can we stand out? And how can we make the messaging not at all be about us in the clinic, but about the prospective patient who's going to be coming into the clinic? Because after all, we're not marketing to our business. We're marketing to other humans. And so we have to resonate with other humans. And so those are the biggest 5 mistakes that I see. So as a recap, we don't set targets. The owner is not involved or not kept up to speed by whoever is managing the relationship with the agency. There's no proper data to track patients all the way from cold to sold, from lead to sale. Okay. We're underspending in terms of what our goal is. We think we have to spend much less to hit these bigger goals, when in reality, that's typically not true. And then number 5 is we have very selfish messaging. So in the ads, yes, we're spending and everyone's seeing our ad, but they're not resonating with the message. It's selfish. It's about the business instead of about the patient. Okay. So those are 5 mistakes that I see a lot of people make when it comes to their advertising in chiropractic, in neuropathy, decompression. All these services are similar. I see these mistakes over and over. So if you're advertising now and you've got a little bit of a blind spot in one of these mistakes, that's not a problem. Just confront the brutal facts. Say, hey, I'm having a problem with tracking my leads all the way through. I need to develop a system that will allow me to see which people I get as leads, but also which people are sold so that I can audit that every single month and then rearrange my spend. Okay. So I hope that's helpful. If you guys got value, share the show. These are 2 back-to-back episodes about 5 things you need to talk with your digital agency and 5 mistakes. So what I'm trying to do is help those of you who are going into this quarter 3, quarter 4 of 2024, and your advertising is just not quite where it needs to be. Here's how we manage the conversation. Here's what we look for. And if you've got one of these notable blind spots in these 5 mistakes, I would try to set that and try to fix that right away, just so that you can really ultimately have a better experience starting as soon as possible with your advertising. So I hope that's helpful, guys. If you got value, share the show. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.